Hey everybody, Steve Sheets here with Ghost Ranch Communications doing a quick tutorial about how to basically marry graphics in your presentation with a text box so that they can scale with that text box or move with it, just to create better usability for other users down the road as text is subject to change. So for example, here on this next slide, we've got three text boxes here with these gold lines next to them. Now if I move this text box, you can see the line moved with it. If I scale the text, you can see the line is scaling with it. And you can also see I've got a fill on this text box. It's a white fill so that it blends into the white background. Now if I right click on this text box and choose Format Shape, I'm going to turn that fill off real quick. And now you see there is a drop shadow on the text. I'm going to turn my fill back on and you can see the line is back. So all this line is a drop shadow on the object. It's important that it's on the object, not on the text. And then with the shadow effects down here, you can change the angle to change above, below, left, right, wherever you want the shadow to be. And one of the more important things here is that we have taken the blur completely out of the drop shadow effect. Taking out that blur gives us that nice crisp line, and then you can use things such as distance to control the appearance. Obviously colors up here. You can get a lot of flexibility with this very quickly and easily. The only thing that I get hung up on by doing it this way is sometimes if you go into presentation mode especially, you might see a very faint hint of an outline around your text box that'll be just a little bit of that drop shadow peeking out. You could potentially mess with the scale of the shadow here to help remove that line, but then as soon as you change the scale to anything other than 100, you could potentially be inviting some problems as people resize that text box. You could get some undesired effects. So there is another way to do this, and that's going to get us more towards how we can work in graphics other than accent lines, or maybe some accent lines that are a little bit more custom, things like that. So I'll jump down into the next slide. And here's a text box that I want to call attention to. Maybe I just want to have like a little underscore over here on the left. And I probably wouldn't do this to list items or anything, but maybe for like a title or something that could be kind of cool, help call some attention to the title of a slide. Say I want it to sit right about there, over on the left-hand side, underneath the text, something like that. Obviously, these are two completely different objects right now. They have no relation to each other, so they aren't going to move together. I could make them a group, but now if I were to scale the text box, you can see the line scales, which is not what I want, and the text went down below it. I could maybe say align text to bottom, and now it's not such a problem. The line is still below it, but it's still scaling, and I might not want that to happen. If I were to scale the height, any discrepancy there is going to be really hard to notice unless I get really, really thin, but that horizontal scaling was obviously creating a problem. So what I can do, I'm going to ungroup this. I'm just going to draw a box that's bigger than the slide. And you'll understand why it should be bigger than the slide here in just a minute. I'm also going to send it to the back. And I'm just going to line it up so that the bottom left-hand corner is lined up pretty well with that line there. I'm going to take the fill off of this. I'm going to select the line. I'm going to make it a group. I just did that with Control G. You can also do it on the Home tab under Arrange. You have group and ungroup options there. So I'm just going to move it off the slide so it's out of my way. Actually, I can't really see it anyway, so I'm just going to leave it right there where we can all see it. But yeah, so I've got this group here. I'm going to double check the width of it. So my width is 13.63. Okay, I'm going to remember that. I'm going to copy this group. And then under paste, we have this drop down. I'm going to paste it. I'm going to do paste special and tell it to be a PNG. And I'm very specifically telling it that I want a PNG because sometimes I've had it create some sort of other graphic objects or media objects that can really eat up file size. A PNG is still going to be nice and small, but some of those graphic objects and stuff can get really cumbersome when it comes to file size. So we're just going to avoid all that. I'm going to say paste as a PNG. And now I've got this picture here. I do need to fix the width so that it was the same size as the original. It was 13.63 in this case. And now I've got this picture that's exactly the size I want it. I'm going to press Control X to cut it. And I'm going to come back to my text box here. And under fill, I'm going to say picture or texture fill. I'm going to say from clipboard. And you can see just the tiniest hint of a line down there. Obviously it's not looking like our original because we haven't set it up to do so yet. It's looking pretty crazy. What we need to do is say tile as picture. And then we are going to change the alignment to bottom left because I wanted it in the bottom left corner. And now, the reason we made that big clear box that this little line tied to was because if somebody were to make this text box crazy wide, it's tiling, it's repeating. It is a pattern. If I were to make it super duper tall, you can see the lines are appearing again. But yeah, as long as you've got it in something that is larger than the slide, there's really no reason why somebody would see those repetitions. But now we have an image that isn't scaling because it's set to tile and I'm controlling the scale here. You can also offset the X and Y placement of it if you need to a little bit. Like you can see this line is sticking out to the left of the text. Maybe I just want to bring it in some so that it lines up really nicely. There we go. Now we've got an image that is baked into the back of this text box. No matter what I do to it, the image is there and it's not going to change. So that brings us to the next kind of phase of this. Yes, very cool. We can attach lines to text boxes, but we can do a lot more than a line because remember, this was a line and a shape that we made this image out of. So we can make that image out of all kinds of stuff. And one really good use that I've found for this is maybe I've got a title on a cover slide that I always want to pair with maybe a line and a logo. And if I can make that all one object, then no matter what people do, say, the title goes on to 4 lines, you could have it so that the logo is always lined up to the, say, vertical center of that text, or maybe you always want it to be under the right-hand edge or something like that, a piece of the text that would move. So let's undo this. I'm again going to create a big old box. I'm going to send it to the back. I'm going to select my line, and I'm going to select my logo, which I know is over here. I'm going to select this. I'm going to group it. I'm going to remember to set this to have no fill. And what is my width? 13.75. I'm going to cut this group, paste it as a PNG, and now I'm going to reset the width. Now the reason this gets messed up is PowerPoint's always going to put back the content when you paste it as a picture. It's always going to put it in so it fits within the slide. Because the box was bigger than the slide, it is resizing it a little bit, but I like my original size, so I'm putting it back to that. I'm cutting the picture with Control X. Now I'm going to set it as a picture texture fill it is already tiling. It's bringing in the settings from last time for our underline, but I'm going to say clipboard because we had cut that. Now I've got my new picture in there, and you can see I've lost my tile as picture setting. I'm going to align it to the right hand edge. And let's see. I'm going to offset the X axis to push this image over. Let's say 200, a little bit more. Let's do 250. That's probably good enough. Now here in text options, this is where it's going to start to look right. I'm going to turn my right margin way up. And you'll have to fine tune this to get the text to align exactly where you want per the edge of your image. But right here is fine for our demonstration purposes here. And then I'm going to turn up the top margin so that we can see the top of that line. I'm going to make the bottom margin even with the top margin because I want the logo to appear right there in the middle. And now that I see the this big gap here between the text and our graphic, obviously I offset the X value by more than what I should have. So I can just turn that back down. Or I can make the text box a little bit more narrow. And that's looking pretty good. Now if I type something new into this, I can move this and adjust it as needed, and everything is still centered and lined up. I also could have made this line extremely tall so that it would go the whole way to the edges of the text box. That would give me even more flexibility if I knew I was going to go onto a bunch of lines and I wanted it to get tall no matter what. But I wanted to keep it relative more to the size of the logo than the size of the text in this instance. And it's all scaling and working pretty good. So I hope this was helpful for you. Please like and subscribe. We are Ghost Ranch Communications. You can find us online at ghostranch.com. Happy to help out with any of your presentations or sales collateral needs. Or I'm always happy to help answer questions. You can reach me directly on LinkedIn. Have a good one.